Welcome back to Trekyards, everybody. He's Commander Cocking.
Is he?
I hope so.
And I would say he's Captain Foley, but the tracking device doesn't always work, apparently.
Yeah. Well, just keep in mind, you're not as unique or special as you think you are, Samuel.
But I'm British.
Oh, that's true. Damn. You're superior in every way.
So is Vadic. Unless you ask the boss, who does not approve. Because, Stuart, we learn lots of contextual things, and the downright Picard saying, "Tell us who you are." Okay, then. Here's the backstory of Vadic. Now we know. It was that easy.
Lots of exposition, but that's all right. I think it was well delivered. So it turns out she was aboard Daystrom Station with 9 of her brothers and sisters. So somehow Starfleet, or at least Section 31 perhaps, got 10 changelings to do experiments on. Anyway, yeah, that's basically where this is going. The whole thing was Project Proteus.
I mean, Picard's moment of "I did not know" is great, but you didn't know lots of stuff. in the sense that there's always secret projects. I mean, that was literally the point of the Daystrom sequence. Look, Genesis 2, I didn't know about that. Look, Kirk, I didn't know about that. Like, that's the point of dead.
Attack Tribbles.
I didn't know about that. Yeah, this is the place you go to find the dead site, the drops, the secret stuff that either was abandoned or whatever. What's confusing, though, about that specifically is the idea of when. Because when is very, very important.
Yeah.
There was a Dominion War, and
I heard about that.
Yep. I've seen a few episodes of it as well. And Vadic's like, yes, we're not justifying why we attacked because we had to. Like, we obviously had to. And I kind of had forgotten that Starfleet said no to the cure, and Odo just did it because he's a hero, so we associate that with the choice of the heroes. But I guess he did it anyway. So, but from their perspective, Starfleet said no, Odo said yes. That Starfleet is the bad guys in theory. That's actually a fair argument. Was she one of the 9 children that were, that were lost into the galaxy like Odo, and then told the stuff by the people? How do you take 10 changelings randomly? I don't know. I don't know how to think, because was it 5 years later, 10 years later? How long have we been tortured? Years? Minutes? Decades? Did Vadic escape 2 months ago? Or has she been a bounty hunter attacking stuff for 6 years, 10 years, 15 years, right? I have no idea what to think about any of that. And also, those changelings were in tiny vials. That certainly implies either their children, their babies, their children, or they were like subdivided. It was one being forced to be multiple, because changelings are more than that in normally. Yes, they can be anything, but you associate them being a little bit more than a tiny test tube.
Yeah, I think, Odo was when he was young, when he was first found.
Because that's why they have a bucket. If you only need a cup of tea, if this mug can hold changeling, you don't need a bucket. The idea of that was specific for how much it kind of fits in was the implication.
It actually does make sense because, I mean, if you're going to hold somebody prisoner, you put them in a small cell. So it could be that was part of the torture that she was talking about as well, being forced to be in that small vial, as opposed to having more room to kind of like.
I would like that if, and this is a small CG thing, if it was up to the top of the vial, like cramped, but it wasn't. It was just sitting down like a beaker.
That's a good point. That's a very good point.
Or if it was like vibrating, like in pain. I mean, these are just tiny notes, but
I hate to think that Starfleet was involved with this, honestly, but because it's basically torture. They were doing everything to them. They were applying heat. They were applying electricity and shock. They were making them brittle and breaking them apart. And they were going to use them as a super soldier or a weapon, infiltrates anything, anybody. And again, how are you going to do that? Are you going to mind control them? Are you going to, how are you going to coerce them to help you? Or is it to design your own soldiers that you can create? It's still a lot of sketchiness going on with the whole thing.
That's what I mean. Like, I was, when they started to explain the story, I didn't get excited, but I got the concept of, if it had been during the war, we could have seen, say, 2 officers walk in first contact uniform and talk to the lady as if it's right then in context. And then you'd have some nice, we've just lost Chantaka, or we've just lost, something real. Or they say,
Ramp up your experiments. Yeah.
Yeah. Or there was a secret mission or there's something you could do to kind of make that make sense in a way that'd be like, wow, cool, we linked all together. but they couldn't afford extras, so it was just her at a desk cutting things. But yeah, the idea of we want you to be better, to hide, to be our agents. Despite that being the exact ability that makes a more powerful weapon against you. You idiots.
That happens all the time, though.
You idiots, yeah. That's what I'm saying.
Yeah. You supply weapons and training to a certain faction to throw another faction because it's in your best interest. And then it changes on a dime, and then they're against you. It's like, oh, shit. Yeah. That happens all the time, unfortunately.
They already are the most powerful thing ever. That's kind of the point. Because I feel like you need... And this might be played later on, and they kind of found a weakness, but if they made them, you would need to write into their DNA or their experiments a way of either finding them, killing them, stopping them. You need that in the experiment, otherwise there's nothing holding them back. So hopefully they have a kind of a kill switch or a disease, something they can exploit once they get the files, which I guess weren't classified because they just had access to them. And they didn't access Data's brain, so they had them on the system, I guess.
Well, we know they have Thedolium-847 in them. Maybe that'll come into play later.
And that was
tracking them. But...
And that was definitely confusing because I tracked it within 12 seconds, but I didn't track the agents on the bridge from the opposite directions. But we know they're all changelings, and I could buy that only Vadic and the special changelings were, because she said I can convert others, which is great. You know, sacrifices who they are to be this new breed. But then her henchman was being tracked. And he's not, he was a made one because he's not holding his form.
But he was also the big one that she was like, kind of, that stayed with her, that she like told to stop, not shoot Picard. Like he's kind of like her right-hand man. So it could be like he's more special than the other ones.
Yeah, but you wouldn't give him just the same costume and the same gun, just be slightly bigger. Thematically,
yeah, they get a red mask. The other ones all have blue.
Well, okay.
So it is special.
But that would mean he is one of her 10, because I'm saying that any new creations don't have that, only the original 10 do. And they'd have to be the ones that we saw, like Tuvok have to be one. There was 4 that they murdered on the Intrepid. I mean, they've already killed like 6 of them. So if they all have the ability to shapeshift at all times, why are you in armor? And if they can be fully shapeshiftable in the armor and can be tracked, then why are the ones on the bridge can't be tracked? So you can't have all of the things at the same time. They all can be tracked, or in the special ones can be tracked. They've only got 10. You've killed at least 5.
The ones that got made after might not have the trackability because they don't have that element.
No, that's what I'm saying.
It's simple as that. Or, yeah, my original theory is, and this goes back to the face that she talks to, is that they're all parts of a whole. Like there's another one that these are all divided from all 10 of them. Because you even made the point in our review saying how'd they get a hold of 10 changelings when we only saw like 4 on Earth, right? So it could be that they subdivided somebody who eventually escaped, but they had parts of him, and she's a part of the whole, and that's why he can influence her from a distance, because he does say your physiology is malleable. You're not as unique as you believe. And then she like... And I really thought for a second that a lot of people were right, and it was the female changeling from DS9 when her face was going all wonky. I thought for sure that was going to be the reveal. But no, I don't know. I just have a feeling that some of them have that, like the ones that were actually experimented on. But anybody that they've converted, who, as she referred to in another episode as shapeless and undefined, as her crew, are just, they can't shape shift necessarily. They can hold that one solid form, but they need to wear a mask because they don't look like anything. So I think those ones are the ones that are being like taken out of left, right, and center and don't show up on the tracking.
And that's what I was certainly arguing. But then why is that one big guy being tracked? And if he is one of the 10, and then if that's only the ones you can track and the ones can't shapeshift, then you killed 4 in Intrepid, Tuvok's one. Now you've only got 2 left.
None of those ones could be tracked, and on Tuvok's one. Tuvok could be another one that was created afterwards.
But they can shapeshift though. We know if we're saying the guards can't, then.
But those could be ones that broke away from the Great Link that they've convinced to work with them, that were already disgruntled with the Federation and the Great Link.
But they need to be the new ones to be able to blend in though. They need to be.
True. The thing is too, her henchman, the guy with the red mask, could be a bigger chunk of her, therefore still trackable, and the more like delineated they get, the less trackable they could be. I don't know. There's ways to explain it for sure.
But it wasn't clear, because that was a very odd edit.
Not at all.
They just appear.
Yeah.
You don't invent tracking and then ignore it 1 second later. I like that. I mean, we both talked about it separately, but I love the idea that, they found one changeling, which I can buy. They got one, and they cut the mother effer up, put them in 10 test tubes, and then over the years of torture, they stop identifying as one consciousness, because the Great Link is one giant goo pile, which subdivides into consciousnesses if they need to. It's mostly goo, but if they were being tortured as, if Beaker 6 had more torture than Beaker 1, it might get a resentment that the other one didn't have and start to subdivide the personality. And then you've got 10, making 10 personalities. That's great. And it explains why there's so little goo. That's really, really good, right? I like that. And then if we then subdivide them again, maybe she said, all right, number 7, we need 100 hench people. Subdivide, baby. And now they can't do almost anything except be henchmen.
And their basic intelligence, they just listen to...
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's great, but again, it limits you to 10, and the shapeshifter forms we've seen have to be the originals to have all the ability set, and so you've killed most of them at this point. Most of them. So there's a lot of interesting questions there. We just like clear rules to go by. But interesting.
Hopefully be explained, but... And I just want to point out one more thing. We know that they were being experimented on Daystrom Station, and they associated the sounds with the squeaky wheels and the sounds of boots on concrete. Why? Why concrete? I'm sorry, space stations aren't made of concrete. That just bothers me.
There's no concrete on Daystrom.
I know, but that's what she said. It was weird for her to say concrete.
I'm assuming it's played as if, like when Shaw said, we don't get paid enough for this, whatever that line was in episode 1. Like, it's an anachronism.
It's above our pay grade.
Yeah. Except,
why would she say it? She's not human.
Nor did she have any cultural context, nor does she know what concrete is, probably. Like, she's never been to Earth, she's only experienced goo, and ships don't... She would never experience concrete unless she went to Earth and went to an old district with concrete.
It could be they moved around and the some of the experiments were on Daystrom Station, some were on Earth. I'll buy that, sure, but I don't know. Just a weird turn of phrase. And the fact that instantly took me out of it, it's like I immediately thought of the Kelvin verse and the concrete cinder blocks of engineering on the Kelvin. It's like, no, that's not how starships work. There's no concrete.
It's really embarrassing. They should be embarrassed by that. Yeah,
that's one line I think that just the writer put in, and it just got through. It doesn't make sense as she would say it. If it was a human using, a phrase,
old Earth language,
yeah, I would buy it. But unless she took on the traits of the scientist that she's formed, who she's maybe she got it from that.
Based on how she acts, though.
I do too. Well, she just is whistling the tune, which is Three Blind Mice, which they whistled. But again, transferring memories is not part of their skill set, as we know. So there's no way that the concrete... Anyway, it's just a small little inaccurate little thing that bothered me. Let's I find it out here. But guys, comment down below anything that annoyed you about this episode, or the backstory in general, or things that you really enjoyed about it, or just things that we might have missed. Any ideas you have, let us know in the comment section down below.
And if you wrote it, just tell us all the answers.
There's that too. Also, make sure you subscribe to the channel, like the video, and join us for any lives that we do where you can actually talk to us in real time and we can have these debates. And you can tell us that we're wrong if you want in real time. So join us for those.
Unless you're a changeling, they won't quite believe you when you say we're wrong.
But we might not know they're a changeling.
But ask them really in-depth questions then. Really in-depth. Each one of the audience members. The questionnaires are coming. So if you want to support what we do here, including your questionnaires, be in the post. Trekyards@hotmail.com. That is the PayPal. Anything you want to give helps out a lot. Monthly, though, at Patreon/Trekyards, or join the channel on Trekyards' YouTube channel. Click join, look at the perks. There you go. Those perks allow you to be in our fleet. You can buy your way to glory.
Which will be at the end of this episode, to watch the fleet so you can see what you can be part of.
Or super chat on any video that we're live on, or super thanks on any actual video. Every bit of support helps a tremendous amount. So we thank you massively in advance, and go watch the next video.
That's right. So until then, he may or may not be Commander Goggins.
He is, he's kind of Foley. Yeah. Only you would say the stuff you said this week. Yeah.
That's very true. Yeah.
Bye, guys.
Bye, guys.